Good afternoon, everybody. And I think at the outset, I must thank my dear friend, Air Marshal Pavan Kapoor, and the complete, CAHO organizers with Dr. Vijay Agarwal as the president, Dr. Alexander Thomas. Is he here? The organizing chairman, and Dr. Rajendra Patankar, the organizing secretary. You know, after that talk on Dabbawalas, I'm basically from Delhi, and I've been hearing about the Dabbawalas for a long time. It was a treat to hear that. And I was just talking to the chairperson who asked me, who needs the conference, we or them, in the sense that the discipline with which they have showed that they deliver over such a long time, sustainability is amazing. The topic I've been given today actually can sound very dry, but the chairperson has made a very nice introduction. I would just like to know how many clinicians are there in the audience. Can you just raise your hands? Just a sprinkle, yeah. So, you know what? I learned early in life in the army that research means researching. You search again for answers which are peculiar to where you are. Everybody thinks research is done in big hospitals, tertiary care centers, AIMS and, ICMR, and fair enough. But research actually is done in the place where you are and starts the grassroots levels. Then there is a pyramid, the apex goes right to the top, but researching your problems. And necessity is the mother of invention, we know that. I would just like to say before I go on to the topic, everybody for loose motions gives tinidazole. We used to give Flagyl before. It's a normal thing. Today it's ciproflox TZ, Norflox TZ, and I'm sure most of us do it. So one of our very good researchers, Admiral Anand, it's a Lancet publication, which is a very high impact journal. He decided to take a certain number of cases and said, let me see how many actually warrant Tiniba or tinidazole. And he actually did the necessary tests, serology, and even took scrapings from the mucosa. And he found that a very small percentage warranted the drug. The rest was all abuse. So really speaking, such simple things go on for years, and cumulatively the damage it does to mankind is huge. So I think all clinicians actually must learn that impact of quality on their practice is indeed real. So this is the outline of my talk. So I just told you, what is clinical research? It's basically, everybody thinks it's drug discovery. It's all about drugs. No, it goes much beyond that. But yes, new treatments and knowledge for better health and care. And what you do for that actually entails research. If you see the last bullet here, besides drug, research has to involve epidemiology, physiology. If you don't know the physiology, you don't know the pathology. Health services, education and outcomes. Mental health, which is so important today, all fall under the big umbrella of clinical research. So it's not only about drug. To have health and illness clubbed together and to study them as a longitudinal spectrum, you've got to cover all this. And clinicians majorly don't know the importance of epidemiology, starting with me. And it taught me over the years how important it is to know prevention. I'm very happy doing a PTCA or a bone marrow transplant, what have you. I'm a hematologist whose main niche area of work is bone marrow transplants. I've got into this area because I just thought this is one part which is missing in the first 10, 15 years of my life. And it paid rich dividends, because if you can prevent, that's the best cure. So I just told you there are different types of clinical research, whether it's treatment, prevention, diagnostics. We've got a complete lab, parallel sessions going on. Screening research and quality of life research. Genetic studies, which in our country, by and large, has got an orphan status. And it's so important. You get a genetic aberration and a child is born and the family is partly destroyed. So unless we learn the importance of this and epidemiology, we obviously won't improve as a lot. You know, it's important to know, to do this, you have to do a trial. And when you do a trial, we use these terms very loosely. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. Most of you may know it. For those of you who don't, phase 1 is done usually in healthy volunteers. And as a matter of fact, you need a small sample size. You're just seeing, is this drug safe? And I think that's the major thing. And the second thing is the phase 2 trial. You go on to see what are the effects in the short term of that drug. You already know. You've done the preclinical trials in animals, so you know what to look at. And then you need a larger sample size. Once I've established that it's working and it is safe, I go to phase 3. What do I do in phase 3? I have to either say it's superior to what is existing, or it's a non-inferiority trial. That means it's on par. So I have paracetamol, and I get another drug which is like paracetamol. And as a matter of fact, I have to prove that either it is superior or it is non-inferior. Both are not the same. Because if you have a superior one, it's going to ultimately replace the one which is superior to. Non-inferior means it's on par. You can use both. Then you see the pros and cons. That's where the phase 4 comes in. I was just trying to answer those questions. Phase 4 comes in, it's a longitudinal linear, it's a population study. I've got the generic bands, I've got everything, but how does it actually figure in the real world? What are the problems I face in the real world? From the packaging to the clinical effects. When I open the packaging, it's powder inside. When I open the packaging, the color has changed. So, you know, there's lots of things from the manufacturer to the consumption of the tablet. It's not just the expiry. We just said, okay, it's got the shelf life, it's fine. No, there are many other things. What is the effect of humidity on the environment? And if it's not packaged properly, if it's hygroscopic, it changes. So there are so many variables. I say there's a lot of, you know, between the cup and the lip, there are a lot of slips. So you got to know there are a lot of variables which we don't take into account very often. And after hearing the story of Dabbawalas, I'm all the more motivated. We've been doing trials to say, there's so many things in India which we do because we've got such a repertoire of, you know, HR and backup from the IT and the pharma industry. But why are we still having to copy-paste so many things? That's because I think it starts with us. The finger points towards you. That we got to do these basic trials on the ground, and I like the thing which Dr. Joseph just showed us, that get together and you will have most of the answers, whether it's an INTAS, whether it is a NATCO, whether it's a CIPLA, whether it's a Renbaxi. No, it's for us to see. They have put it on the shelf. But we got to get together to do that. And it's doable. We've been doing it all along. And whatever we have done is collaborative, and we published it. It may not be in a New England Journal of Medicine, but it's published. And I'm a firm believer, if you don't publish in India, you perish. We've got this wrong notion that you must have the best publications in an NEJM and a Lancet. I want it for my Indian colleagues, my Indian doctors, my Indian paramedical staff. And I go and publish it in a place where he has to pay $40 to download it. So I don't know if it's the smartest thing. So if you publish your smartest papers in your journals, the impact factor goes up because you're cited more. So these are little things which matter, okay? So this I've already told you. And then whatever you do, you say what is the level of evidence. If you have level of evidence 1, you are there. That is the dictate, that is the order of the day. That means you've done a randomized controlled trial. And randomized controlled trial is the best answer to a problem. In the sense, I have randomized it and I've got the answer to a problem, and I say it'll be validated. And there's a meta-analysis, it's 1A. If you don't have a meta-analysis, you only have 1 or around 1, it's 1B. Like this, it goes down till level 4 when you just have expert committees, you know, giving opinions because I don't have studies. Often diseases, which you don't see very often, they all come in this category, okay? So this is what everybody thinks a trial is, a new drug. So I must tell you that a new drug is important. It is very important. So it's part of our clinical research. And in a new drug, is nothing but we generate data about the pharmacokinetics dynamics and how it works in the body and what are the risks and the benefits and whether we have a scientifically sound model. That's how you go around the trial. And in the trial, what's it about? You must know that it carries a risk which can be life-threatening. To be aware of this is our duty. And to make the patient or the subject aware is again your duty. And that's the informed consent. How informed is the informed consent? We'll talk about that. That's, I think, hugely important. In India, we have a rich traditional medical system, which is biodiverse. We also have a good R&D capacity, as has been shown time and again. GCP trained manpower. Largest English-speaking country in South Asia. Okay? And a huge number of postgraduates with PhDs. With low labor costs. World-class IT, we are the IT leader in the world. And a progressive pharma industry. So can we put this together? Have we done it? I don't know. Maybe partly. So the clinical trials become indispensable in such a situation. But see what a pathetic state we were. We had an unfavorable ecosystem. And only 19 trials were approved in 2013. It dropped by 93% from 2012 when we did over 260 trials. Why was this? Things went wrong. Why did they go wrong? Clearances and ethics were not in place. HPV vaccine, multicentric international trials, subjects died. No business to die. So where did we falter? We did falter, okay? So the adverse event and the serious adverse event must be known. And the serious adverse event is when there's a death or, will I have a few more minutes or you want me to wrap up? Okay. So the death and any serious event which prolongs the hospitalization is a serious adverse event which must be reported. And these agencies are the ones which control it, which everybody knows. But the role also you must know. So these guidelines and rules were put into place, which must be followed. And we must be conversant. It's all free downloads in the websites, okay? And the CDSCO has now come of age and they've got it all on the website. So please visit it to see what's your role there. And this is what we have to know. The clinical trials registry. I'm not so concerned about accreditation here because it's been talked to already twice. So I'm going to concentrate on the trial part. CTRI, if you don't register a trial where a human being is being intervened with, then you are at fault. You can be penalized. And let me just tell you, we did the 3 largest stem cell trials in this part of the world. And guess what? We learned the hard way with CTRI didn't exist. When we went for a publication abroad, they said, you can't publish it. This is the mail I got from my first attempt at NEGM, saying that you have not registered it. Why? There was no registry. So you have to go abroad to register it. So this was the first lesson. All of us should know. I published this in Indian Journal of Medical Research, very well read and cited, okay? And these are other articles. Now, health trial, which is being done by ICMR, you can see over the years, the amount has increased. Okay, to nearly 911 crores. But you see the projected demand and the allocation? 3,000 crores was the demand and we got half of it. So we need to get more governmental allocation for this. And to do this, the ethics committee is the most important part. And the ethics committee must have these 4 parts. You must know what's the structure, it must be competent, it should know function, and it must be independent. And for the composition, you must have, you see the members, you must have 7 to 15 as per DCGI and ICMR. At least 5 must be there. It should not be just a rubber stamp. Okay? And it must be registered by the CDSCO. And now the CDSCO has outsourced this to the NABH on behalf of the QCI. Okay? And this part I'll skip, but what I want you to see is what are the responsibilities. The basic responsibility of the ethics committee is to protect the subject. And you must know that there should be no harm done to him in any form. But to do that, you must be empowered and you must be knowledgeable and you must be trained. And unless you're trained, you can't do that. And in the NABH, what we've been doing is precisely that. Training and training the assessor and training how the ethics committee should function. And these are the basic rules that a committee which is in ethics is valid for 3 years. And there are so many which are already registered. And this is the minimum quorum for an ethics committee. A basic medical scientist, a clinician, a legal expert, a social scientist or an ethicist, and a lay person who is not connected with the subject from the community. And the challenges, I would like you to concentrate on the third bullet: informed consent and vulnerable subjects, and compensation for injury or death which may be related or unrelated to the trial. He has any admission which is not related to the intervention, you still have to take care of him. He doesn't pay for it if he's in the trial. This is one thing which is not known by most people. Okay? And this is the vulnerable group of people, economically and socially disadvantaged. Children, pregnant women, elderly people, patients with organ failure, patients in jail, even the defense forces is covered. The last one, if you see, diminished autonomy due to dependency or hierarchical system. I can order a soldier to join a particular study. That is the vulnerable population. So I must protect that population. Okay? And this, when you have an event, you must report it within 24 hours to all concerned, which is not happening. And NABH is doing this by form of accreditation and by form of monitoring. And I don't have to tell you why you should accredit. You just have heard enough on that. It actually ends up as an all-round benefit. And my last slide says it all. NABH was brought into play in 2016. And today, in last 1.5 years, we've accredited nearly 100 ethics committees. And this is on the net, the standards. And training is ongoing, and we are continuing with that. And obviously, this is the number on the CDSO website. The ethics committees, nearly 1,000 have been registered. And obviously, it's an ongoing process. The common errors, the last 2-3 slides, is that you actually don't have the quorum for doing the meeting. You have not laid out the SOPs, what should the frequency of the meeting. The owner of the hospital is the chairperson of the ethics committee. And the informed consent is not informed because the patient doesn't know the risks and not in the language he understands. The principal investigator totally lacks the necessary training. And you're doing a cardiac trial without an expert from cardiology in the ethics committee as an invitee. And you actually do not end up financially compensating for a problem which has occurred during the trial, related or unrelated to the drug which you're using. And that's very, very important, which I think we all should know. And these two examples are just to show you. The first one shows just the red one. The start of the study, 10th February 2016. DCG has given the approval 1 month after that. But the study has been started before approval. Commonly happens. Second one you see, he has to do 185 subjects, started in 17, finishing in 20. But he's actually done only 33 subjects. So obviously, the benefits of accreditation are to the public, in terms of accountability and commitment and confidence, improve the staff morale, gives the institution a new sense of direction and identity, helps the institution to know its strengths and weaknesses, most important, and promotes inter and intra-institutional interactions, and facilitates information sharing and continuous quality improvement. Over-regulate, you can have a parched land. Don't do that. You need this situation. Control the regulation is a win-win situation. And obviously, you'll have a happy family in the healthcare system. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.